Hey everyone, welcome to Campner Canucks. My name is RevTrev, and today we're doing another NHL Draft special. If you haven't seen my stuff yet, you can go on YouTube. I believe it's still on Facebook, X, all different kinds. So the easiest place to find the NHL Draft content is on YouTube. There's a playlist on there, and I've done all kinds of videos. And today we're diving into the draft, this draft special, talking about the NCAA, the SHL, or the CHL, which is basically the best league. Okay, which league is better? Which one should we value? And there's so much to this. Okay, so we want to dive into it. And just a reminder again, I've done videos on the draft lottery, on McKenna or Stenberg. I've done different ones on what the Canucks are going to do at the end of the first round. There's all kinds of videos I've made in that playlist, so go check that out. Okay, so which league is better? Now, the answer is, well, it depends. I mean, there's different pros and cons to every league. By the way, also, when I'm talking about the NCAA, the SHL, it's also the KHL. It could be these other ones, the Finnish. I think there's Finnish league. Of course there is. But there's these different leagues that are out there that people are playing in, and it's like, well, which one is developing the best players? Now, things have shifted. The NCAA is now going to become more popular. And if you look at what the NCAA is offering students, full ride scholarships or good chunks of their scholarships, they have state-of-the-art practice facilities, training facilities, because the NCAA knows how to do sports. You know what I mean? But the CHL has been traditionally the league where everyone goes for the most part. And if you go that route, you can go into the NHL, it's the fast track, right? But things have shifted. And even the junior hockey level with, like I'm used to the BCJHL, it's a BC Junior Hockey League. You've got was the Penticton Vs and the Vernon Vipers, and there's all kinds of teams across Canada, but Nanaimo Clippers, you name it, Salmon Arm, Silverbacks, Prince George, Spruce Kings, all that kind of stuff, right? Those kind of teams used to be what they called smart hockey, and that's the way you could go to get a university scholarship and go that way. But if you played in the CHL, you couldn't do that because they think they made a little bit of money and all that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of things to it. So let me just break it down quickly to you. So the NCAA, it's an interesting league because, let's start with the CHL. So the CHL is a lot of 17-year-old players play in the CHL. Can you be younger than that? Yes. And then you can also be older than that. 19-year-olds can play in that. But the NCAA is basically you're playing against 21-year-olds. It's like the college years, right? So someone like McKenna, who's now playing in the NCAA, is a 17-year-old player. I believe he's 17-year-olds. Let me just bring it up right here as I have 17-year-old player who's playing in, or 18-year-old player, whichever one he is. Oh, he's 18, right? Because him and Stenberg are 18. They're playing in a 21-year-old league, right? So they're more like developed. The difference between a 17 or an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old is a big difference. Can be a big difference, right? But then you look at the SHL, and these are the guys in the Swedish Hockey League that are playing against grown men, right? And so that is an important piece to that. So there's so much difference with these three different leagues. KHL is another story in Russia. And, but it's similar to the SHL and the playing with men and the whole thing, right? So which league is the best league? I don't know the answer to that. You can have argument for each one, but which of these players coming out of these leagues are going to be best suited to play in the NHL? And I don't think there's one path that's the best, but knowing this is very important because the NHL Draft Lottery is Tuesday, May 5th, and all the draft content's going to be picking up. Now, let me dive in to showing you the difference of the leagues, okay? So if you just go and look at the stats, right, it's deceiving because it depends on what league they're playing in. For example, McKenna, who's playing for Penn State in the NCAA, okay, the Big Ten, he's played 35 games. He's got 51 points. And then you look at Stenberg, who's playing the SHL with men, and it's 43 games he's played and it only has 33 points. So it's clearly like McKenna over Stenberg, but actually it's not just that clear, because really Stenberg's playing against bigger, tougher guys. Maybe they're not as well. They'll be skilled. I mean, it's a professional league. And I think it's a professional league. So you're sitting there and looking at it and going, you can't. It's not apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Okay. So 35 games, 51 points. Oh, he's clearly better. Maybe Stenberg is more NHL ready. And that's what a lot of people are saying than McKenna, right? Because you're going to be playing against, all the way up to 35-year-old men in the NHL. And it doesn't matter if you're 17, 18, 19, 20, you got to compete. That's why a guy like Bouillon, for example, we're excited about. He's like, well, he hasn't hardly any points. It's like, well, he didn't put up Quinn Hughes numbers in his first year. I'm like, Quinn Hughes is elite of elite, but Bouillon's still having a really good year, and he's 20 years old. Think about when he's 24 years old and how much better he's going to be potentially. But then if you look at the three leagues this way, not three leagues, the two leagues. So the defenseman, for example, Verhoeff, who's playing in the NCAA, the Big Ten, North Dakota, right? He's only got 20 points this year. And you're like, why would you be drafting him higher than a guy like Reid, who's got 48 points in the OHL, which is CHL? Yeah, and better yet, in the WHL, Carels is got 73 points. My apologies, 73 points. Okay, so when you compare these three, and you're like, well, obviously Carels should be ranked higher, Reid should be ranked lower than the second, and Verhoeff should be third, which it still could be in the draft, but I would just argue that Verhoeff's playing in a tougher or the older league, so it's a more difficult than a guy like Reid, than a guy like Carels, who's playing in the WHL. Now, a WHL, and a lot of what's happening is that CHL guys are going to the NCAA, and it's depleting. Guys who are going to go to the CHL are going to the NCAA, and it's depleting this league. So yeah, they're putting up big monster numbers, but who's the better defenseman? Offensively, that is what we're talking about. I think another way to look at it is this way. So you got Caleb Malholtra, who's been rising up draft boards, right? It plays in the CHL. I believe he's in the OHL of the Ontario Hockey League, right? 67 games, 84 points. Everyone's going nuts about him right now because in the playoffs, he's slaughtering in the playoffs. Well, we're talking about the first round. So, should be playing a weaker team. Of course, he should be having a great playoffs. I mean, you would expect it. He's going to make the NHL, guys. A lot of these guys in the CHL are never going to make the playoffs or the NHL. They might not even make the minor league, the AHL, right? They might end up going, maybe some of them will go to the SHL. But then you got Bjork, who I value. I think he's super skilled. In my opinion, he's arguably the best center in the draft. Okay. He's played 42 games and he only has 15 points. And you're saying clearly Malholtra is better, you know? And it's like, maybe not. He's playing with men in the SHL, right? Or CHL, he's playing against 17, 18, 19-year-olds, right? So I guess the biggest shift, and I'll show you this one, is McKenna, okay? So McKenna is, as we've already talked about, he's playing the NCAA with Penn State. 35 games, 51 points this season. The season before, so a year before, 17-year-old, he played in the CHL for the Medicine Hat Tigers, okay? And he played 56 games and had 129 points. Like, this is the same player in two different leagues. You're like, man, he's regressed. Nope. No, he's playing in a different league with 21-year-olds. Now it's tougher. It's a competitive league. You know what I mean? They're trying to get to the Frozen Four and win the championship, all that stuff, all that pressure of that tournament and all that kind of stuff, right? So here we are. This is a great example of the different leagues. Two different leagues he's played in. Look at the success. And everyone's like, man, he's slaying it in the NCAA. And it's like, really? Well, because the year before, right? Now, let's talk a little bit about the love affair with the Ruck twins. The Canuck fans want us to draft McKenna, and they want us to draft the Ruck twins. And if we get that, it's considered a success. I don't think the Canucks are going to draft the Ruck twins. Now, it'd be kind of cool to have it. I think it's neat to have anytime they have the twins and they have the chemistry where they've, you know, they're twins. They think similarly. They're brothers, you know, that whole thing. But are they a for sure lock on that they are going to be successful in the NHL? And they are rising up draft boards on people. In fact, I think Craig Button has one of the Ruck twins at number 10 overall, where most people have them in the 20s, and it's Liam that they have over Marcus. And so that's just such an interesting thing. But the Canuck fans were like, we had the Swedish twins with Henrik and Daniel Sedin, so this is going to work for us. It's like, I don't even know if the Canucks are going to draft these two guys, but I think if you're going to draft one, you should draft them both. And the Canucks are in that spot. If one of the Ruck twins drops to wherever they're going to pick there for, say they reach 20, like we're going to pick between 20 and 32, right? Like 22 and 32 with the Minnesota pick. You're sitting there looking at it, and you're like, you got to take him then. You got to take one of them then, and you hope that the other one's at that first spot in the second round that you could get them both. But I don't think you're going to get them both. Now, I know that the Canuck fans have I should put Canuck fans, not Canucks. Canuck fans. Canuck fans love affair. My apologies for saying that. So let's look at this, for example. So Marcus Ruck has 108 points. Liam Ruck has 104 points. They led the WHL this year, which is awesome, which is amazing. But if you think about it, first of all, they'd say that Liam's going to get drafted first because he's the playmaker, he's the center, you know, all that kind of stuff. But these guys together, that's pretty good numbers. So I've already showed you Malholtra's numbers. He's the center, and he's only got 84. Bjork's only got 15. And it's like, this is a no-brainer, right? When you look at Stenberg and McKenna, you're like 51 points, 33. Then we should be drafting the Ruck twins. No. But look at this number, okay? So when Rossi was coming out of the CHL to get drafted, he went 9 overall. He had 120 points in that year. 120 points. In the CHL. But you have Marcus and Liam, who got 104 points, and they're leading the Western Hockey League in that. So it's all relative, right? And so should the Canucks take the Ruck twins? Well, if they land them at the right spots, then I'd say yes. But there's a lot of great players. Klepov, I like Hronek. Why am I saying? Oh, because I'm a Canucks fan. why is his name evading me? Oh, anyways, yeah, I think some of you already know who I'm trying to be talking about. Chrenko. That's a guy that I like a lot. There's all kinds of players. Matt Cullen, who's a very, very good super skilled player, just had some injury issues. There's a lot of great guys in that Liam Ruck, Marcus Ruck area that I think the Canucks would prefer. But Marcus and Liam are Canadian kids. Rossi, I think he's from Austria. He looks really good as an NHLer now. You've got the whole McKenna being Canadian, even though he's playing in the U.S. Stenberg, who's the Swedish player. You've got Verhoeff, who's Canadian kid. Reid is the American, and Carels, who is the Canadian kid as well. And it's like, I don't care what nationality they are. Are they going to be great for our team? And are they going to have great NHL careers? For example, you're like, we need more Canadians. Well, think about a guy like, let's keep this one up. Kopitar, for example, just played his 1,520th game. He's played 20 years in the NHL. Can you imagine if we draft one of these kids and they play 20 years for us? I was hoping that Quinn Hughes was going to be that guy. That's what I was hoping. But it didn't end up being that guy. Maybe Pedersen, at least Pedersen's going to play 20 years for us. Who knows, right? He's already played how many, and then just signed an 8-year contract with us. So, but you think about a guy like Kopitar, and you're like, well, he's not Canadian. He's not good. I'll tell you, every team in the league wanted a Kopitar. Every team. And you're like, well, we need more Canadian kids. Well, what about the Ovechkins of the world? What about the Forsbergs of the world? Like these guys, it doesn't matter about where you come from. It's like, what can you do? Because Yager was not Canadian, guys. This is where you're saying, well, you're using these examples. Like there's a lot of great Canadian players, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of great US-born players as well. There's a lot of great Swedish players, Finnish players, Russian players, Slovakians, Czechs, Germans. Draisaitl is a German, right? And so he's fantastic. Arguably top 5 in the NHL. Went third overall. So you got to think of those things, because we always think about the Crosbys and the McDavids and the that kind of stuff. And then it's got Celebrini, who's got 44 goals already this season. Could be up for the Hart Trophy. He's just had a phenomenal year. It's like Canadian equals this. No, it doesn't always equal that. Anyways, I'm going on a different rant now. But the question is like, which league? Well, I think there's a value to each league. And just a reminder, the Canucks draft two first round picks. They got the very top 3 pick there, and then whatever the Minnesota pick ends up being. Then there's the 2 in the second round, our own pick, and then is it San Jose's pick, who they missed the playoffs. Then 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, and 3 in the 6th. And you're not going to hit on all of them. If you can hit on 3 or 4 of these, that would be an awesome draft, because it's an entry draft. It takes some years to get in. So anyways, I just wanted to make this quick video. Hope you found it helpful, informative. I'm looking forward to the lottery, the draft lottery. Don't forget to go check out my other videos. That would be great. Yeah, playoffs are around the corner. Drafts around the corner. And here we are. Just going to be, the draft lottery, then the draft at the end of the season. And I think I have it on here when the draft is. Right here. It's at the end of June, so it's quite a ways away, right? So there's a lot of draft content that's coming our way. So hope that you have a phenomenal day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna hit the outro, and I hope that you have a great day. But I hope the Canucks get a 1st or 2nd pick. That would be awesome on Stenberg or McKenna. I made up. This is the one that I made up that I predict if the Canucks get first, who they'll pick, if they get second, who they'll pick, and if they pick third, who they will take. So make sure you go check that video out. Okay, have a great day, and of course, always go Canucks, go.